Well, a warm welcome back to Saints Live. We do apologise for the technical issue there, but we're back with you. Hopefully everything working as normal. And we're going to continue the chat as we build up to the team news, Belvers. And we'll talk about Kyle Walker-Peters now. Obviously, he came off injured on Wednesday, but we're hopeful that he'll be available again today, which is such a huge positive because for the last 2 matches, he's been an incredibly bright spark on both ends of the field.
Absolutely, for the last 3.5 years. It is fantastic. We were all worried when he came off against Brentford because it seemed to be a hamstring where he sort of overstretched after being clipped by Aguero. You know, that sort of injury keeping him for a long time. So we were possibly shaking it off, and he's in contention today. He gives so much defensively. He shackled Marcus Rashford, one of the most informed players in the Premier League right now. Last week, he's football. You need to be able to play in every position, and he shows that he really can, because when he's at this end of the pitch, he's often the highest player, the furthest player forward. That doesn't faze him at all. He knows he has the pace and stamina and wherewithal to get back when there's danger at the other end. He can, you know, this was the best chance against Brentford when it was a combination of keeper and defender on the line to deny him. You know, again, he's high up the pitch and he's not afraid to take players on. He can cross the ball and he can do that from both sides as well. Being able to do that with your left and right is such a good quality to have. He's blocking shots here, he's sliding in, reading the game as I said, and yeah, Marcus Rashford didn't really have a look in, and attacking wise he was causing problems as well. He's got so much as well. He's not afraid to take players on. He accepts the ball in really tight spaces as well, knowing that he can pass, he can race out of trouble, and you know, I think he's a tremendous player. One of the best signings that Southampton have made in recent years, and you know, I'm sure a lot of viewers could say going back further than that, he's been absolutely tremendous. He's a leader as well. He's only 25 years old, and yet I was talking to him this week. We spent about an hour together at the training ground, and he was saying that while he's not the most vocal on the pitch necessarily, he has taken it upon himself to act like a senior player and talk to younger players. He said that when they had their first training session with Ruben Selles back in pre-season, he went into the dressing room and said, "This guy's good, you know, keep an eye on him, you're going to enjoy this." He had him so engaged in that session. We talked a lot about his time at Tottenham as well, because as you alluded to, I've got a bit of an interest there. He surprised me by saying that the game at Spurs about a year ago now, the 3-2 win, that's a game they still talk about a lot at the training ground, refer back to and watch clips of it, because that is seen as the hallmark, the real sort of benchmark, if you like, under Ralph Hasenhüttl. The way they battled back. The second goal, the equaliser, was like a 25 pass move that Walker-Peters was right at the centre of as well there. He said that level is something they aspire to get back to. He believes they can get back to it, the way they've adopted this approach that was brought in under Ralph, now under Ruben Selles again. And I believe him when he was so absolutely confident when he said to me, "We will be staying up. We will still be a Premier League team next season. We can play like this." This is that 25 pass move that was just, you know, back then Spurs were such a well-organised team under Antonio Conte, and yet they moved them all over the park, put players in positions just a little bit out of kilter as what they were expecting, and then they finally found the moment to give it back to James Ward-Prowse after going all over the pitch here. They gave it back to the skipper, who put the cross in that got the equaliser, and this was a great show of spirit as well as everything else, because they'd felt hard done by going behind for the second time in the match, because they were convinced it was a foul on Armando Broja in the build-up to the second Spurs goal. They then they'd never let their heads drop. They showed what togetherness and spirit they have in this squad, and talent as well, quality, because winning away at Spurs back then wasn't easy. They were on their charge to 4th place, playing really well under Antonio Conte. And, you know, I think there are signs that they're getting back some of this good passing, the way they can retain possession again, not be afraid to have the ball and cause big teams big problems. And, you know, let's hope there's more of that today.
Dean, I think it's fair to say that Brentford took advantage of limited opportunities that they had on Wednesday night. Can you just quickly talk us through the goals that we conceded?
Well, the set piece is something we've highlighted all season. It's been a bit of a weakness for Southampton, and it's just that small detail that I speak about a lot. It's the communication. James Ward-Prowse is in an area with the near post where he needs to be aware that no man can get across him, but can his teammates let him know? I think that needs to be done better. Cole Walker-Peters at the back post needs to either communicate that Ivan Toney is there and he needs to swap with a player, or he needs to go a little bit more narrow. He needs to be inside Ivan Toney, so he's the wrong side. So it's a good delivery and it's a good finish. It's well worked from Brentford. You can see they work hard on their set pieces, but from a Southampton point of view, there's two moments there that need to be defended better, and it comes from being a little bit more vocal and a little bit louder and more aggressive in those situations. And the second goal is just where Southampton are chasing the game and they're out of shape. I think Bednarat has gone up front then. It's a kind of under-hit goal kick, and then midfield runners not tracked really. So it's a small detail. The second goal I wouldn't worry about. It's the first goal. You don't want to lose games from set pieces, and that's happened a lot this season. 10-11 games to go this season. It needs to improve, but I would say it is improving, but it has to be more important to the players in those situations to not concede from set pieces.
Okay, well, the team news is in, and we can bring that to you in full now. So I believe it will appear on your screen as I'm speaking. So the Southampton starting lineup is Gavin Bazunu, Carl Walker-Peters, Jan Bednarek, Armel Bella-Kotchap, Roman Perro, Romeo Lavia, our captain James Ward-Prowse, Moy Elianusi, Stuart Armstrong, Theo Walcott and Shay Adams. And the Southampton substitutes are Alex McCarthy, Ainsley Maitland-Niles, Adam Armstrong, Paul Onuachu, Sekou Mara, Kamaldeen Sulemana, Mohamed Salisu, Charlie Alcaraz and Ibrahima Diallo. So there's the Southampton lineup today. Paul, what do you make of that?
Well, first of all, very happy that Carl Walker-Peters is in the team, as we said. I think the back five, that is the best back five right now. I'm surprised Charlie Alcaraz has dropped out. Delighted Romeo Lavia's back in. I do think that Spurs are a little bit vulnerable when they come up against a team playing three in the middle of the park. So whether that's Moy Elianusi or Stuart Armstrong playing in the number 10, perhaps if he drops a little bit deeper. There have been a lot of games this season when Spurs have lost the game because they've lost that midfield. And, you know, that's when Kane drops very, very deep, and as good as he can be passing the ball from there and things, that's not where they want him. I think, you know, we mentioned Stuart Armstrong before. I think very hopeful that he can have a big impact on this game. And Theo Walcott, he scores goals against Spurs. I know that from, from especially when he was at Arsenal. You know, the number of times when you'd see him run through against other teams and he didn't have to finish, that was never a problem against Spurs. So maybe he can do that again here today.
Dean, Stuart Armstrong back in the starting lineup today. A bit more creativity maybe from him in the Saints team today.
Yeah, and like Paul's just touched on, it'll be interesting to see where he plays, whether he plays wide or he plays in that number 10 role with Alcaraz not being in the team. I think that's just, again, him being a young player and just taking him out of the limelight. He's had 2 games this week. He's had that, maybe he's got a little bit of an injury as well. But really happy to see Stuart Armstrong back into the team because he brings something different. He has, like I say, he's willing to take that chance. He's willing to take that risk. It may not come off the first time, but he will do it again, and we need that at the moment. But whether he'll play wide or in the centre, I'm not sure. Elianusi, I think, is better centrally, personally, than wide, because we saw from the goal there, the 20-pass goal against Tottenham that Paul was talking about. He gets on the end, he makes really intelligent runs into the box. He's really hard to track, plus he works really, really hard. So there's going to be times today where Southampton are not going to have the ball and they need to get it back, and he's good at pressing as well, and he starts that press. So it's a good team, it's an attacking team. Happy to see the changes, freshen it up, but like Paul said, defensively, I think that's the best we can be, and Lavia back in the team, such an important player, so excited to see.
Well, Belvers, let's talk about Fraser Forster then today, returning to St Mary's. He'll be between the sticks for Spurs. How do you reflect on his time in a Saints shirt?
I think it was, you can sort of split into half or maybe into quarters. It was a big signing when he arrived for about £10 million. I was lucky enough to see him. The first time I saw him in the flesh was up at Celtic against Barcelona, a game they won 2-1, a game that I think about 20 million Scotsmen claim they were at that day, but you know, he was excellent against Messi and Sanchez and Fabregas and so on in a game that they only had about 15% possession or so on. He started brilliantly for Southampton under Ronald Koeman. He was immense as Saints were fighting at the top end of the table, weren't they? And then I was here against Burnley when he had a horrific injury, and it was a real horror to see him crumple taking a goal kick or trying to clear the ball. He came back from that though after a year and was very good again, and even under the change of manager under Claude Puel, there were a few mistakes sort of started creeping into his game. He still broke the club record for length of time without conceding, 708 minutes, taking that title off Kelvin Davis, and he was a big part in that charge to the League Cup final as well. But those mistakes did keep coming. He seemed to lose a lot of confidence when Mauricio Pellegrino took over. The team didn't have a lot of confidence, wasn't playing well, and that's when things really slid from under him. He fell out of favour with the manager, and he was suddenly frozen out. He'd only recently signed a new contract, and I think the club felt, right, we can make some money on him, and yet no one came in for him. He was in limbo. He wasn't making match day squads, and I remember talking to him back then. He was feeling quite low. So then he went back on loan to Celtic again, did really well, came back and established himself back in the team after some opportunities through COVID and injury and in the cups and things. And I think he finished his time here very well as well. He only made something like 130, 140 appearances in 8 seasons, which doesn't sound a lot really, especially for a number one goalkeeper. But there were reasons behind that, the long-term injury and then the falling out with the manager. I think he deserves a really good reception here today because he was a good servant. 8 years is a long time, and he was immense at times, and he was a huge part of some recent big successes. And the fact that it didn't always go well wasn't always down to him, and he never complained in the press or anything like that when he wasn't in the team. So yeah, I'd like to hear a really good reception for him today.
Yeah, hopefully he'll get one, Paul. Now, Dean, you were with us for the very first game of the season at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Aside from the fact it was a lovely sunny day and the spread in the press lounge, what do you remember from that day?
You're right, the food was absolutely lovely. Well, the stadium to start with was spectacular. Really impressed with the stadium. But it was a hot day, but a good start from Southampton, as we're seeing here from James Ward-Prowse's opening goal. It's brilliant technique, and it was, I wouldn't say it was against runner play, it was pretty even up to that point, but from then on Tottenham really took control of the situation, and it was probably a warning for what the season was going to bring. Really, there was 2 goals in that first half that came from crosses. We haven't defended crosses particularly well this season. Cole Walker Peters at the back, just a little bit unaware there. Tottenham runners getting in front of Southampton players. So just that warning that we need to do better from crosses, particularly in that game. And then second half, the own goal from Salisu is difficult. He just can't quite sort his feet out in time. He's trying to clear it. He's trying to do the right thing. But like I say, Tottenham on the day were the better team, and we all thought that they were going on and have a probably better season than they're having at the moment. They've been a little bit inconsistent. I know they're still fighting for the top 4, but they were the better team on the day, and Southampton needed to do a little bit better. But it was the first game of the season. It was a great goal from James Ward-Prowse, and like I say, the stadium and food was fantastic.
It really was, wasn't it? Oh, that Ferrero Rocher cheesecake still lives in the memory. That was pretty special. You mentioned Spurs being inconsistent there. Belvers, this is something I want to ask you on. Sorry. In the last 6 weeks alone, they've beaten the likes of Man City and Chelsea, but they've lost to Wolves and Leicester. So is it fair to call them inconsistent?
Inconsistent is an understatement, really. Infuriatingly inconsistent if, like me, you are the human embodiment of a half and half scarf today, because spent 25 years living in Southampton now, but grew up in Spurs and come from a family of Spurs fans. Yeah, it is very difficult to watch them at times because they have such a wealth of attacking talent and yet play with the handbrake on so much, it seems. And you look at the names in that squad and you think they should be tearing 90% of the Premier League apart, and yet as well in the last few weeks they've lost to Sheffield United in the Cup and lost to a very average AC Milan team in the Champions League, and the 2 games against Arsenal this season have been absolutely unforgivable. Didn't turn up, absolutely hopeless, and yet they've got one of the best coaches in the world, Antonio Conte. There is no debate about that. You look at what he's won, and yet you then question which of his players has he made better. You look at the season that Son is having. What is going on there? the new signings, Richarlison, £60 million, hasn't scored a goal in the Premier League, plays for Brazil as the number 9 in the World Cup. You know, you've got to be some player to do that. Yves Bissouma, every team in the Premier League wanted him. He hasn't got anything out of him. Jed Spence, best player in the Championship last season again. He has had an absolutely wretched year on a personal level. He's lost 3 very close friends in a very short space of time, and he's also gone through really difficult, serious surgery in hospital himself as well. So on a personal level, you really feel for him, and the fact that he's still in the job is remarkable enough. But from a football point of view, he is infuriating as well, because Tottenham don't blow teams away. Last week against Nottingham Forest was probably the best game they've had all season, or the most comfortable game they've had all season. I think they are extremely beatable, and I wouldn't be at all surprised to see a home win here today.
Well, seeing as we have you both in person today, and you love it so much, we have brought back the Wheel of Goals.
Yay! Yay! Just for you.
So this is a selection of the best goals that Saints have scored against Spurs at home.
Yes, indeed. And here we go. This is a good one to start on, Dean. Danny Ings against Spurs on New Year's Day in 2020. What a goal.
Yeah, wonderful goal, Kenzie. It's a lovely through ball. You can see that Danny Ings where he wants the ball. He's in between 2 defenders. It's a really intelligent run, but it's the composure. You know, that first touch over the defender. And what you see from a natural goal scorer, the ball, when he goes past the defender, he slows himself down and takes 2 lighter steps and slower steps, and then calmly and composed puts it into the bottom corner with his left foot. And he's a natural goal scorer, Danny Ings, and he could do this. He's done this many times in his career, and it's a fantastic goal. It really, really is. But it's a striker making a Southampton player know where he wants the ball. He wants the ball over the top, really intelligent run, and then it's that cleverness and that composure in front of goal, which the best strikers have. And Danny Ings has that. You know, he suffered with his injuries in his career, but when he's in those positions, he's clinical. He really, really is. So it's a fantastic goal.
Indeed it is. Right, next up we have Sofiane Boufal in the FA Cup in 2020. This one's coming up in just a second, Paul.
You predicted that.
What do you make of this goal and also his time at Saints as a whole?
I'm impressed at your prediction skills. The wheel hadn't gone round.
We didn't even spin it.
I've got my crystal ball out prior.
Well, it's a tremendous finish. Look at that. Last couple of minutes of the game, Forster a draw and a replay. Sofiane Boufal all up. I mean, this came again, I remember good work in the middle of the pitch. Pierre-Emile Højbjerg winning the ball, I think. I don't think he's going to get the same sort of reception Fraser Forster will today. And Sofiane Boufal, if he ever came back here, I think there'd be a bit of a groan, or, you know, because he cost a lot of money. And we saw flashes of brilliance. There is no doubt that he is a very talented footballer. He played in the World Cup as well, again, didn't he, this winter just gone. But, you know, I mean, even this list of highlights, there are lovely moments, but he didn't do it enough, and he didn't show it on the defensive side, which again means that you're going to struggle to get regularly into a Ralph Hasenhüttl team. We always have this, though, don't we? The goal against West Brom, that moment where the 2 West Brom defenders run into each other because he's so clever, I will never get tired of watching that. It was an absolutely spectacular goal in an otherwise desperately dull game, and yeah, it was quite rightly right up there as one of the goals of the entire Premier League season. Wonderful goal. A player, though, that we didn't see very much of really in his 4 years here.
All right, well, we've got time for just one more spin of the famous Wheel of Goals. So here we go. Which one is it going to land on?
I feel I broke the magic, Kenzie, or something.
You didn't at all. You didn't at all. Like you said, you had your crystal ball. Here you go. We've got 2 for the price of 1 here. Graziano Pella scoring a brace against Spurs in 2015. Dean, not sure what was happening with this first goal.
I'm not sure either, Kenzie, to be honest. It looks like the players all stop. They're thinking there's going to be a foul, but Pella's on his front foot, and then it's quite comical, really. Ben Davies tries to use his body against Pella, but Pella just kind of goes the other side and he nips in and tucks it away. So, you know, good fortune for Southampton, but again, I'm not too sure. I think they're expecting a free kick or a foul. The VAR, I think he would have got a foul in the modern game. But the second goal is brilliant because it's good attacking play. Shane Long, first touch, puts it into the box, brilliant cross, and Pella Rise times his run brilliantly, gets such power in the header. And these are the things that we're probably crying out for at the moment. You know, the game during the week against Brentford, the when the wide players got the ball, they took too many touches. They slowed the game down to allow Brentford to get in position, to get in those defensive areas. But Tottenham didn't have the chance here because it's one-touch football. It's a brilliant cross in the box, great timing of the run, great timing of the spring, and such power in the header. So, yeah, it's a fantastic goal.
Yeah, okay, well, before we come to you both for your score predictions ahead of kick-off, we're going to hear from the fans, hear how they're feeling before the match against Spurs today, 3 o'clock kick-off, of course. Well, we've got this comment here from Mark. Thanks for getting in touch. He says, we need to win today before we go into the international break and hope teams above us lose. Andrew Kirby getting in touch as well on Facebook. He says, come on, boys, we can do this. Up the Saints. Alpha Gaming on YouTube, hello to you. Need to bounce back from midweek, that's for sure. Another comment coming on YouTube as well from DellGirl63. We have the determination and passion, just need to get goals. It's goals that will get us the much needed 3 points we need. Saraf, hello to you. Vamos, Southampton, I hope we can win this. And Saint Rob also sending in the love. He says, hopefully Saints can move up the table today. Come on, Saints, do the business.
Good stuff. Well, we've got about 45 minutes to go until kick-off here at St Mary's, so it is time to get your final thoughts and those score predictions. Paul, let's come to you first.
I think there's always been a little bit of something between these two clubs. It's almost, it's not, no, of course it's not a derby, but there's been that sort of extra rivalry. If you think, go back to, you know, the Glenn Hoddle saga, Dean Richards as well, more recently, Højbjerg, Wanyama, Alderweireld, players like that that essentially have been poached, and a manager as well, poached by Tottenham. That it's meant a little bit more to the fans, and I think that has, we've seen that on the pitch as well. There have been a lot of fantastic battles between these two sides, really close battles, and Southampton a lot of the time don't get the rub of the green. I can remember a lot of games in the last decade especially where Spurs have been very lucky to get a result, and I think that luck is going to reverse today. I think it's going to be 1-1 until late on, when then Stuart Armstrong is going to pop up with a win.
Now, Dean, obviously we've seen the Saints do everything up until the final third. Do you think there's going to be goals in today's game?
Well, I'm tempted to say that everything's going to go right for Southampton today, and Southampton going to blow Tottenham away 4-0, but I won't go for that, just to wind forward. No, I think it will be a close game. I think Southampton need to find that edge again, and need to find that aggressive nature they've had in recent weeks. Find a way of creating chances against this Tottenham team. Will need to defend very, very well because of the attacking players Tottenham have. But I think it'll be a close game today. I don't think there'll be many goals in it, but I'm going to go for 1-0 Southampton.
All right, there you go. Dean Belvis, thanks ever so much for your insight. As always, great to have you with us in person, and we look forward to doing it all again after the match as well, of course. We're edging ever closer to kick off here at St Mary's Stadium. The Saints taking on Spurs in the Premier League. Thank you for tuning in and keeping us company. Do make sure you rejoin us once more at full time for the final whistle. Bye for now.
See you soon.